It's 7 o'clock here where I'm filming from in New York City. My wife is going to come home, probably ruin the show, and my dog is going to bark periodically because other people are coming home. So if you can bear with that and with the unpredictability of what's going to happen next, I hope you'll like the show. Today, oh, I forgot the opening. This is, hey, hi, this is Elgin. Well, let's do it right. Hi, this is Elgin Subway Surfer Bowling, your creative caricature marketing consultant. And in this episode today, I'm going to talk about branding and how I accidentally did that before it was a thing. And also, I want to talk about Subway Surfer drawing for real. Okay, let me start with that. I became the Subway Surfer way back in the early, I'd say, 2000s, probably the mid 90s, because of my tendency to draw on the subway train. I had this moniker before the Subway Surfer game came out, and they had the audacity, because I know they had to check to see if there was a name like Subway Surfer. They took it anyway. There was a time where you could go online, type into Google Subway Surfer, my name would come up, my website would come up, my photos, everything would come up. It was Subway Surfer all day, every day, and I was the only one who had that spot. And then Subway Surfer, the game, had to come out and ruined everything. But that's another episode. But how did I become the Subway Surfer? How did I get branded? Well, it's because when I first started doing caricatures, I was doing them locally. I was doing them for a local promoter, Larry Youngstein in Canarsie. Love you, Larry. Owe you big time. The name of his store was Having a Party. And how I got connected with Larry in the first place was I was working for the Canarsie Courier newspaper because I was living in Canarsie. It was a local paper. I wanted to draw editorial cartoons for them. I've given that advice, I think, on a previous live about becoming an editorial artist. And it turns out that they liked me, and so they hired me. So I did graphic arts there. And I was responsible for doing large display ads, quarter page ads, and smaller. And I often did the graphics that were required. And one of the things that made our paper stand out was the fact that I didn't have to use boring clip art. I could put my stamp on it by drawing art right there on the spot. Me and another artist, his last name was Gaspritz. You should look him up also. He does police humor. Fabulous artist. Very funny. But I digress again. So this ad came in for Having a Party. He was a local live entertainer, party entertainer, and magician and clown, and he needed an ad. And his ad was really, really busy, and so I grabbed it, and I took it directly to his office and asked him how he liked it. He said, "Well, I'm getting some bites from it." And then I looked around at what he had to offer, and I said, "Well, I noticed that you didn't have a caricature artist." And he said, "What's that?" And I said, "I'm going to show you right now." Now, I had a friend who came to the office with me and said, "Have you ever drawn a caricature before?" And I said, "Nope, but I'm about to do one now." So I did one of Larry. Took 3 minutes to do because I was fast. And he said, Doesn't look like me at all." And he showed it to his son, and his son started laughing. And that's when he knew that I got the likeness. I think he knew anyway, but was in denial. And that's how our working relationship started. Now, I couldn't drive. In fact, I couldn't get a license because at that time, like now, my eyesight was not good enough to drive, let's put it that way. And so Larry would send me out to all of these locations in Upper Manhattan, okay, Lower Manhattan. He would take me to Westchester. I would have jobs in Connecticut. I would have jobs all around the city and in the outskirts, of the city. Okay, I guess the metropolitan area is what you called it. And all of those jobs required that I travel. Sometimes it was a 2-hour commute to get there. 2 hours to get back, 3 hour commutes, also. And so I had to do all of this traveling and then get to the party. And I had to be on. And I was a little nervous when I would go to these parties because I had to just start drawing cold and I was just worrying so much on the commute over. When it occurred to me, I said, wait a minute, I got a golden opportunity here. Why don't I warm up like a pitcher in the bullpen and just draw the caricatures? So by the time I get to the gig, I would be humming. I would be all warmed up. And that's why I did it. And I also did it because these areas that I was going into were unfamiliar at the time. I had ridden the Long Island Railroad. I had ridden Metro North, but only on a special occasion. So I was a bit nervous going into a strange place, and being on the train and drawing these caricatures kind of helped me to calm down as well as warm up. And so I did it mostly for my own entertainment. And unlike the drawings that was doing at the parties, since I was drawing them for myself and for my own entertainment, I would go wild on the faces. I mean, I would make them so unbelievably highly exaggerated that if anybody saw them, they'd want to beat me up. Now I'm hearing the dogs, so I don't know when this is going to end. So maybe this is going to be a cliffhanger. So I would be drawing these caricatures, and I drew so many of them. It caught the attention of a friend of mine who suggested that why don't I take these drawings, because by this time I had hundreds and hundreds of drawings in my sketchbooks. She said, why don't you take these drawings? Her name was Allison Geldman, by the way. And she said, make it into a blog or a website or something. And then I knew I had to think of a name, something to call myself, rather than just Elgin Bowling. I wanted to stand out. And so there was a term, subway surfing. And that's a dangerous thing that kids used to do. They would literally surf on top of the train. They would do another version of subway surfing inside, where when the train was going, when it was rocking back and forth, they would let go of the straps, and the poles, and challenge each other to subway surf on the inside of the train. And so that's how I got the name Subway Surfer. I said, okay, this makes sense. I'll call myself Subway Surfer because I got to ride these subways to get to where I'm going. And well, the surfing just came with that. Subway Surfer, your creative caricature marketing consultant. I'll explain that in another episode. Okay, so that's what happened with the name. And then something unbelievable happened. I became a YouTube subscriber, and I said, well, I got to have somewhere to put this stuff, so I put it there. And I had no idea that it would catch on. I thought people would see this mug of mine, they would probably laugh, probably make fun of my voice, and I'd be a joke. But I had to get this stuff out. And as I was posting the drawings, I said, well, I think what I'll do is I'll commentate on the drawings also, and also give out advice on how young caricature artists could thrive in their business. And so that all became a creative caricature marketing consultant, where you're seeing this live. And back in the day, without trying to do anything, just posting every day. I'm giving you a key here. I posted every day, and I always tried to genuinely help somebody and give them advice, because when I was coming up, very few people would give out advice. Very few people. They felt, artists are notorious for having secrets. If they've caught on to, and I understand it, when they've caught on to something, they don't want to tell it out. They don't want to give you any advice, because it might be their thing and it might help you to do better, and you are their competitors. So we have a tendency not to share. And I said, if I ever really became good at doing something, and I became really good at doing caricatures, I would do something to help others. And my fame began to grow. Elgin Subway Surfer Bowling, or Subway Surfer. And I remember, I knew that I was quote unquote somebody when I went to my first caricature convention, held by a man. Well, not it wasn't held by him. Okay, I had to get my brain working again. I went to my first Subway Surf. I went to my first. This is going to be a YouTube moment. I went to my first convention held by an organization called the NCN, the National Caricaturist Network. It's now known as the International Society of Caricature Artists. But at the time, it was the NCN. And I met up with artists from around the world. But a funny thing kind of happened when I was there. You know, people would be whispering around me, that Subway Surfer, that Subway Surfer. And I said, huh, these people know me? And apparently they knew me from all of the stuff that I was posting online. You know, and I'm talking about people from Europe. I'm talking about people from Japan, people from China. They knew who I was. And that's when I realized, wow, I guess this is branding. I had something unique amongst all of these artists, many of them who were much better artists than I was. But I became something or someone who had a hook, who had an identity that made me stand out. That's the guy who draws those outrageous drawings on the subway. Here's something else that happened as a result of that branding. I not only drew on subways, I drew in coffee shops. Everywhere there was people, I was drawing. Again, trying to amuse myself and pass the time. But what happened over time was that people would look, they would laugh, they would start pointing at the person, and people began coming over. People would be looking over my shoulder. People who caught me, because I never wanted to get caught drawing anybody on the subway. Never. It ruins the shot. It ruins the shot when they catch you. But they would come over, and I would hand them the drawing that I was doing, and then do another person incognito and hand them the drawing if they saw me drawing. And then one day I was in the city. I dunked at Starbucks on 80, I believe it was 80th Street or 85th Street. And I was at this I keep saying Dunkin' Donuts, maybe because I really like their coffee. Sorry, Starbucks. Anyway, I happened to be in Starbucks, and I was sitting in a seat by the window, and I was drawing caricatures of people sitting at the tables across from me. And so somebody in the window looked down at the drawing I was doing, and they came inside, and they said, "You're a Subway Surfer." I was shocked. And I said, "How do you know me?" And they said, "We read your blog." And these are total strangers on the street. They came in to tell me that they knew who I was because of my blog, which had the drawings on it, which had the advice on it. You know, we had a little conversation. I walked away shocked. The next time I was on the street, and I'm going one way, this pedestrian is going the other way. He turns around, he taps me on the shoulder and stops me and says, "You're a Subway Surfer. I read your blog." And then I realized again the power of branding. And now it's a term that everybody uses, everybody knows about it. But it happened. I wasn't looking for it. And if I could give you any advice at all about that, I would have to say, do what you love and be who you are, because that's where the branding is going to come from. You stand out in some particular area. There's something that you do. There's something that you have a tendency to say. Maybe it's a hat that you wear. I don't know. But you've got to do something that's you and yet stands out. If I had known this Subway Surfer thing was going to be my thing, I would have leaned into it much harder. But now let me talk about something else. I'm the original Subway Surfer. People drew all the time on the train because I would see them. I would have to say that I'm not the only one who did it. But I guess I'm one of the purists, because what I see today online, people are, drawing caricatures. They're sitting across from people, or a person. They'll usually film it this way. It'll be an empty train car in like New York City. They'll show the person, they'll show the person drawing, the person they're drawing, and suddenly they'll hand them the caricature and everybody's smiling, and then they show the camera what the drawing looks like. The artists are good. They're really good. They're very talented artists, but I'm betting they didn't draw it live. Not with the amount of detail that they have. And also, something else is wrong. People in New York on the train are very suspicious because there are crazies on the train. There are people who rob you or harass you, or beat you up just for fun. It happens, okay? So you have to be careful. If you find yourself in a subway car with a person alone, with just you and them, it's a good idea to go to the next car. And I've done that several times, hundreds of times when I've drawn. I never let it. I never let anything happen where I'm alone and exclusively with someone because it might be the wrong person to be alone with. But these people who are posting now online do that on a regular. So I'd have to say it's fake. Another thing that people generally don't like, strangers, they don't like to be observed directly and have you drawing. There's going to be a confrontation or they're going to move. That's what happens. So I don't even see how they can be really just drawing away, and this is supposed to be live, and they're just drawing away, and they hand a person a caricature, and it's, oh, this is so great. But it's fake. It's fake. Another thing, there's what I call the invisible cameraman. You're trying to tell me that some person is sitting directly across from you on an empty train car, and there's a cameraman filming them, filming you drawing, filming the picture, and showing the person's reaction. It's not real, folks. When I was drawing on the train, my greatest joy in the world was having people not be focusing on me. I love the fact that they were interacting with other people, staring off into space, and they wouldn't be directly in front of me anyway. I would really be in a corner seat, watching the seats not directly across from me, but on the angle, for lack of a better word. If you know New York City at all, you have the seats. They call them the bum seat because it's sometimes bumps would just go over to those seats. They're usually by the They not usually. They are by the subway doors. Okay, that's where they are, and it can only be occupied by one or another person, two people, if you squeeze that in. So I would usually sit in that seat, put my bag there, and then stare across at the long seats. That way I can draw incognito and people would never know that I'm drawing them. That's the way to subway surf. If you're not drawing that way, you're not really a purist, not in my book. So I just wanted to let you know about that. I am the original Subway Surfer. So if you want to check out what it really looks like, you can go on this site, Creative Caricature Marketing Consultant, and look at especially my old videos, where I have work posted and also where I have tutorials. Well, that's my Subway Surf. Blah, blah, blah. I need some water. No wonder they have water on these sets. Anyway, that's my Subway Surfer story. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope that you would get something out of it, especially the part about branding. I'm going to make another live based on that. And the next time I come on, I think I'll have some hot tea or something like that because my throat is so dry, I'm getting my words mixed up. But, as always, comment, share, and stay tuned for more episodes. Thank you so much. This is Elgin, Subway Surfer Bowling. Oh, subscribe. Subscribe. I mean, that gives me the incentive to make more videos like this one. to give out more advice, and also it increases my ranking, increases my status. So thank you very much for tuning in. This is Elgin Subway Surfer Bowling, your creative caricature marketing consultant. Good night. Here's the tricky part now. Here's the tricky part. Okay. Are you sure you want to stop streaming